Hi, and welcome to Tapped into Hudson. I'm Steve Lennox, and I'm the publisher of Tap into Bayonne, Tap into Hoboken, and Tap into Jersey City. First, I want to welcome you to 2021. Wish you all good and healthy and safe new year. I hope it's treated you well so far. You'll see again, we're doing the show remotely, just like we were at the tail end of 2020. Of course, we're still in the throes of COVID-19. We have light at the end of the tunnel, though, with the vaccination being introduced in Hudson County and across New Jersey. We're hoping we can promote that program as much as possible, get as many of our readers vaccinated over the next couple of weeks and couple of months so we can return to health as quickly as possible and be back in the studio. But with that, we do have a very special guest joining us today via the internet, via streaming, and that's Mussab Ali. Mussab was recently elected as the president of the school board in Jersey City. Mussab, thank you so much for joining us here today. Mussab, how are you?
Yes,
Thank you for
Steve.
joining us.
Yeah, Steve, thank you so much for having me. Glad to be on the show.
So first of all, congratulations on the election last week. I think that came as a bit of surprise to some, maybe not to you and maybe not to your coalition of school board candidates, but we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Before we get there, Mussab, I want to ask what I think is the most important question. How are the students of the Jersey City School District doing amidst the COVID-19 and remote learning?
Well, I think it's been a tough transition for everyone. Of course, I think nothing can replace sort of the in-person learning process. But I think we've done a good job, as best a job as we can. Initially, the first thing that we had to do was make sure we close the sort of technology gap. And we've been fortunate to have partners that have helped us do that. So not only have we gotten Chromebooks, but we've also gotten hotspots for a lot of the kids that didn't have internet. And so I'm proud to say that at this point, we're at a place where we're one-to-one, which means that every student essentially has access to a laptop. And so, that was a big part of the gap at first. And now at this point, we've also done a ton of professional development for our teachers. And we've gotten to a point where I think that, we're sort of providing the best level of remote education that we can. But again, of course, nothing can replace that sort of in-person learning.
Mussab, thank you for talking about the technology gaps. That's something a lot of people don't think about, certainly outside of the urban areas. They don't realize that not every student has access to that device, and it is so critical, especially in this form of education. Who were some of the partners that came forward? Was it mostly the school board? I know the city stepped up. Were there corporations that also came forward? There must have been a ton of money invested as well.
Yeah, so we were very fortunate to have corporations that came forward. We were fortunate to also have some businesses here in Jersey City. We were fortunate to have money from the CARES Act, so that also went towards our technology funds. And I think also we've had this partnership with T-Mobile for a while in terms of these hotspots. So even before the pandemic had started, they were offering hotspots to some of our students, and we continue to purchase hotspots and that sort of thing. But it's again, we're fortunate to have people who care about the kids Jersey City and are willing to be partners to close that technology gap.
And Mussab, you said it yourself there, as well as the teachers have done with the transition and the students have gotten used to the remote learning, it doesn't replace classroom learning. Is there a plan to get the kids back into the classroom?
I think our top priority is obviously the public health of all of our educators and all of our students. And I think the thing that makes it really tough for us is just being such a big urban district, right? With smaller suburban districts, it's much easier if you're just the school board in charge of just one school. But with us, a population of 30,000, it's difficult to manage the logistics. It's difficult to kind of think through what we would be able to accomplish without a vaccine. And given the rise of COVID cases, particularly in urban areas, I think it's going to be very difficult for us to bring students back at this rate. We've already announced that until the end of the third marking period, which is April 21st, we don't anticipate anyone going to hybrid learning. It's possible in the fourth marking period, the spring and summer, that we bring students back. But my heart says that it's more likely than not, it's going to be not until the next school year.
Mussab, do you think that in September, will they be back full time by then? Do you think, or is there still a chance they'll still be in a hybrid learning environment?
So I think what we've been very fortunate about is when you look at the state's plan in terms of vaccinations, the state is actually offering as part of the 1B program that teachers will also be able to get vaccines. So at this point, Jersey City is at the 1A stage, but at the 1B stage, once teachers and educators can start getting vaccinated, I think that alleviates a lot of the concerns that we're going to have regarding this COVID-19 pandemic. And I think definitely by September, we would be able to be in a position where our teachers are able to come back and we're able to provide a sort of safe learning environment for everybody.
Great. What role do you expect the school board to play in terms of letting parents, letting students, letting teachers especially know that the vaccine is safe? Because I know that's been a concern.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think the state guidelines let us, cut the line in terms of this vaccine. I mean, I'd be more than happy to be someone who would volunteer to get the vaccine just to show people that I think it's safe. But I think the most we can do is just in terms of education, constantly talking to the community about this, and constantly just providing sort of reinforcement, because I think it's important for us as public officials to support our public health officials and support the state in this sort of the rollout of this vaccine, so we can all get to a place where everyone is safer and everyone is more protected.
Mussab, thank you. And let me say it right here, and let me say it clearly. Please count on Tap Into to be a part of that process, to let parents and let students, let teachers know that the vaccine is being rolled out. We want to be a part of informing and educating the community. Mussab, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come into the next segment, I want to talk a little bit about your trajectory from being a Jersey City public school student to being the president of the school board. Thank you.
All right. Sounds great.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design studio and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net. Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Jersey City Medical Center is healing, enhancing, and investing in Hudson County because your heart doesn't beat just for you. So get it checked. When your bones are healthy, it lifts us all. We're delivering joy daily in our Lord Abbott Maternity Wing and providing New Jersey's only NCI-designated comprehensive cancer center. We'll continue building our medical network and taking every precaution for your safety so that we can all be healthy together.
Hi, and welcome back to Tapped into Hudson. We're joined with Mussab Ali, president of the Jersey City School Board. Mussab, thank you again so much for joining us. Thank you. You're battling through hiccups, Mussab. I want you to know it's okay. It happens to all of us. I'm not going to ask you to stand on your head, but you're drinking the apple juice. We're going to get through this together.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, once I got the invitation from Tap Into, I knew I had to make it no matter the circumstances. So appreciate you sticking by me regardless of the hiccups.
Thanks, Mussab. Thanks for battling through. Mussab, I want to talk. It's a fascinating story. You're a product of the Jersey City School District. You went to Rutgers University. At, I believe, 20 years old, you decided to run for school board, and you won by really only a handful of votes. Tell us about your education experience, first of all, and what you learned and the grounding it gave you by going through the Jersey City schools.
Yeah, so I actually first ran for office when I was 19 in 2016. And I actually lost that year. But what it was, going through Jersey City Public Schools, I think the thing that I learned the most was just, how students from such diverse backgrounds could work together and really solve challenges of the world. I mean, especially, through my middle school and high school years, being surrounded by people from all over the world who were just so intelligent, it provided me this opportunity where I never really felt like a minority. And I say that because, nowadays, especially going to Harvard Law School, I go to rooms sometimes where I'm the only person of color. but I've never had to feel like I had to mute my voice or I had to become smaller, because being a part of the Jersey City culture, I was never taught that I was lesser just because I looked a certain way. I mean, everyone looks a certain way, right? Everyone comes from a different background and different culture. And so that's empowered me to be someone who doesn't really back down in terms of my opinion. It doesn't really matter to me whether the room looks monolithic or, if the room is full of people from all different backgrounds, because I'm just so used to being in environments where your voice matters no matter what you look like.
And has that diversity shaped your opinion? You say it gave you the confidence to sort of voice it, but has the diversity and the celebration of that and, the different cultures, has it shaped, what you think and what you feel and what you bring to the Board of Education?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it's so important to recognize how diversity kind of shapes the way that you grow up. It shapes the way that you start to think about different cultures. It shapes the way that you think about your friends. I mean, my closest friend group is kids from all over the world. If I was to look at my closest friends right now, one guy's Filipino, one guy's Irish Italian, one guy's from Egypt, one guy's from Morocco, one guy's African American. And then another guy is half Japanese and half African American, right? So we're like from all over the world, and it's like we're like a really close group of friends. We've been together as friends for like I'd say now the past 10 years. So to have that sort of friend group that looks like it's like on the cover of a college brochure, but to have it in real life, right? I mean, I think that's sort of a unique opportunity that you can't get anywhere else but Jersey City.
Mussab, what do your friends think? It's not that common for 18, 19 years old, 20 years old to decide to run for office, let alone vote. I mean, better than most. We have a difficult time getting young people even to use their voices in the voting booth. What do your friends think, or what did they think when you said, I'm going to take that step, I'm going to run for office?
Yeah, so I was actually pre-med in college. My parents thought I was going to be a doctor. I thought I was going to be a doctor. And so my friends definitely thought I was insane, but they were willing to go with it, right? And they were like, listen, why not? We don't really know anything about politics, but, who knows what can happen. And so we all decided to kind of come together and come behind my campaign and sort of just, take an old-timers try at it. And so again, we were unsuccessful the first time. I thought that was going to be the end of my career in politics, but I was fortunate enough to have gotten the union endorsement in 2017. Kind of ran against the machine that year, I felt like, and we're still successful.
Mussab, you just mentioned there your friends didn't know much about politics. Then you threw in the word machine there also. What have you learned about politics since you ran for office the first time, getting up to last Monday when you were elected to the school board as the president of the school board? What have you learned?
Yeah, I think I've been very fortunate to be someone who's been independent of political machines up until this point. But I've learned that, so often in Jersey City, and it's probably even more reflective of New Jersey, so many decisions are determined by political machines, right? We have people who are power brokers who essentially determine what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. You look at the way that the line, quote unquote, kind of influences the way that people vote. I mean, I'm fortunate to be in a nonpartisan race where I'm not influenced by the Democratic line, but for the most part, people just, if they're put on the line and people know that you're part of the Democratic Party, that's just how people vote, and they don't necessarily make independent decisions. So, I've been fortunate to be in a position where I constantly am in a place where I can educate other people about politics. But I think more and more people, as more people get involved, the more power the everyday person is going to have.
Thank you, Mussab. Mussab, in our last 25 seconds or so, what is your goal in the role of president? What do you hope to accomplish over the next 12 months on behalf of the students of Jersey City?
Yeah, I think the first thing is definitely going to be the budget. That's going to be a big thing coming up in terms of the budget cycle. I think the second thing is, ever since I went to public schools, I think starting in 5th grade, our water fountains had been closed. And I think one of the big accomplishments, if I can finish it by the end of this year, is going to be to reopen water fountains in all of our schools. When I first got on the board, we started that initiative, and I hope that I can complete it during my presidency.
Mussab, I appreciate so much you taking the time to join us. I appreciate you battling through the hiccups. It shows you're a fighter. So thank you for that. Congratulations on the election last week. I look forward to working with you over the next 12 months, also to help make sure people know the good stories that are coming out of the Jersey City Public Schools. Mussab, thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you, too.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. across the Hudson Mall is your one-stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens, Jersey City Ford, 201-432-7272.
Hi, and welcome back to Tapped into Hudson. I'm Steve Lenox, and I'm the publisher of Tap into Bayonne, Tap into Hoboken, and Tap into Jersey City. Our next guest on this show is Chris Halleron. Chris, of course, is our reporter out of Hoboken. Chris is also the CEO and editor of HMAG, and about a year ago, we partnered up to bring local news to Hoboken and Jersey City together. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Steve. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for working on the lighting there for a few minutes. We had to get your good side.
There is no good side, so we'll just work with what we got, but I appreciate it.
So Chris, I just mentioned there, we talked about this on the very first episode we filmed together back in November, just about this idea of you and me coming together with Tap Into and the HMAG brand, which was so well established, coming together to bring this local news to Hoboken and Jersey City and, of course, Bayonne. How have you found it over the first 9 months since we launched Tap Into Hoboken? What's the response been?
The response has been great. It's been great from my point of view to have someone to work with, because prior to that it had primarily been me. We had a couple contributing writers, but it'd been a lot of workload on my end, and it's nice to have people to bounce ideas off of and check typos and stuff like that. So just from a functional standpoint, it's great having someone else there with me. And as far as our coverage, it's really done a lot for our readers, getting the other communities of Bayonne, more coverage of Jersey City. We had done some with HMAG, but we're certainly expanding a lot more thanks to the input of Al Sullivan. So it's really been beneficial for us and our readers, and we're getting a lot of good feedback.
Yep. Thank you, Chris. You've been a great partner. Of course, Al has been a great partner also, and you've both brought a lot to the Tap Into table. Chris, I want to talk about a story you brought to us, I guess, about a week ago. We don't usually delve into state issues too much, but this was certainly a state issue, some legislation that's working its way through Trenton that would impact development along the cliffs there in Hoboken and all throughout Hudson County. And our esteemed legislature there in Hoboken had something to say about it. Can you tell our readers a little bit about that legislation?
Yeah, there's a state Senate bill. It's S3274 that was put forth by Sacco and Stack, basically looking to limit the height of development on any land below the Palisade, which would, in a lot of towns, that's part of their town. It's a bit, just a portion of it. But for places like Hoboken and also Edgewater, that's all of it. So everything's below the Palisade, and to have sort of a state or a larger authority come in and try to control that space has really ruffled a few feathers down in Hoboken.
Whenever you talk about, you go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
Hoboken has a lot of issues. They have a lot of issues in terms of development and how they put limits on how high they can go and stuff like that. So it's, and they do a lot of variances to get around that, but those variances bring in added value to the community. And so that's where the city council in Hoboken is saying, look, we kind of need to have our own control over that and let ourselves dictate that, because it's not fair to surrender that sort of negotiating power.
Chris, it was some of those community amenities actually that I wanted to talk about, because I think it was Councilwoman Fisher who commented in the article about that this isn't just construction. These aren't just buildings and jobs, but these are, improved roads or bike lanes or parks. I mean, Hoboken really impacts, the redevelopment really impacts every facet of life in Hoboken, doesn't it?
It really does, because, every time they put up nowadays, every time they put up a sort of sizable development, there is some sort of give back to the community, whether it's a park or some outdoor space or some indoor space even. They're building gyms and stuff like that. So, I mean, want to have their hands on that ability to negotiate. And meanwhile, there's a very outspoken not anti-development, but sort of a keeping development in check has always been an issue in Hoboken, and it's been done organically within the community itself. So it's not really something that they want to have other people coming in and saying a flat no. And particularly given the circumstances, it's people in the Palisades, the Highlanders, looking down on the Lowlanders and saying, "Hey, you can't block our view." So it seems kind of superficial, whereas there's a lot more to it from the Hoboken point of view.
So, Chris, of course, an interesting dynamic in all this is you've got 5 members of the city council, I believe, that supported this resolution to oppose the legislation. They're standing against a couple of state senators who are also mayors in some of these towns. That doesn't, happen too often where they oppose those mayors. So, talk about the political dynamic there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so the Hoboken mayor's office has been pretty quiet about it because there's this sort of big communal political hug going on in Hudson County right now. That's really, people are trying to get things done and not rock the boat too much. But there are other elements within Hoboken. They're saying, hey, this is something that we need to keep in our own hands because to have it decided elsewhere is an issue. And feathers are ruffled and things are in flux, and we don't know where it's going to land. But it's really created a unique situation. It's created a situation that's certainly worth following, and we'll be doing that moving forward.
Development issues all the time. They bring in readers. They generate a lot of interest. They generate consternation, concern sometimes. Chris, thank you for joining us in this segment. We're going to come back in a few minutes, and we're going to welcome you back again. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the politics of Hoboken over the next year. It's going to be a very exciting year with a mayor's race. There's vaccinations to talk about. Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
If you need to see a doctor, RWJ Barnabas Health has 2 easy ways to do it from anywhere. You can see an urgent care provider 24/7 on any device with our Telemed app. Or use our website to book a virtual visit with an RWJ Barnabas Health Medical Group provider or specialist, even as a new patient. You've taken every precaution, and so have we. So don't delay your care any longer. RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer a Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunnelly Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Hi, welcome back to Tapped into Hudson. I've got Chris Halleron joining me here again for this final segment. We're just going to talk a little bit about Hoboken politics. It's going to be a very exciting year in Hoboken. It always is. But this year with the mayor's race, we got some city council members up. We just talked about a legislative issue that the city council has been grappling over for the past couple of weeks. Chris, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
So Chris, last week we had Councilman Ruben Ramos got elected as the city council president. Jen Giattino got elected as the VP. She formerly served in the top spot, and now she's serving as VP. Tell our, for those who may not know Ruben, tell our readers, our viewers a little bit about Ruben. He's been around a long time in Hoboken.
He's been around a long time. Yeah, he was. He previously served as council president in 2018. He and Giattino had sort of been going back and forth. So it's basically just a reshuffle at that position. And, Ruben, according to Ruben, he was surprised by the nomination and happily accepted. It was, the vote was 5-3, and the 3 in opposition were those who were typically allied with Mayor Bala. And the reason that's worth mentioning is because Ruben has indicated that he may be looking at a possible mayoral run this November.
How much do you think Ruben's throwing his hat in the ring like he did in November? Do you think that impacted some of the other council members' decision to put him in that top spot? He gets to serve as, foil number 1 to Ravi Bala, maybe?
Yeah, it might be a good sparring session. I don't know. I'd say it certainly impacted the 3 nay votes. It's hard to see how things are going to shake out in Hoboken at this stage of the game because the election's not until November. An awful lot can happen between now and then. A lot has happened in the past year that will shape the election, and it's very difficult to see how things are lining up. As I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of countywide and statewide alliances being forged right now. So it's a pretty dynamic time in Hudson County politics and Hoboken politics and Jersey City politics. So it's kind of a wait and see, but it's worth watching. You know, it's an interesting show that's playing out in front of us, and we're gonna see how it goes from here.
And are there other names circulating? Will there be other mayoral candidates, do you think, or is it too early to speculate right now? I mean, of course, there's been talk of Councilman Del Fusco in the past. Do you think there's others that are going to emerge?
I'm sure there are others that are going to emerge. I mean, you know, the last one was 6 candidates, so yeah, and then there's plenty of big fish in Hoboken. So I'm not worried about a lack of candidates. It's just a question of who's going to come forward and when and what their plan's going to be and what they have, what their long-term goals are. You know, the Bala administration has been heavily criticized, and there's plenty of opportunity for people to come in and speak their mind and put forth other ideas that perhaps they'd like to see improved in Hoboken. So it's going to be vocal. We'll see how productive and practical these solutions are, but it's going to be a lot to watch, and I'm looking forward to watching it because it should be pretty exciting.
And we'll certainly be right in the middle of it, won't we, Chris? It won't be just a matter of watching it. We'll be reporting on it right up until Election Day, and you know, depending on how the election goes, maybe the days following. Chris, you mentioned the Bala administration there, and obviously they've had the unenviable challenge of running Hoboken in the middle of COVID-19. You know, a crisis like none of us could have ever seen before. What is the reaction or the response on the street right now to how Mayor Bala has handled himself and handled the city, most importantly, during the COVID-19 outbreak?
It's complex. You know, Hoboken was facing a lot of issues prior to COVID, particularly on the budgetary front. They had the layoffs that were floated prior to COVID and then executed in late April. So that still resonates. However, the medical response has been pretty well received. You know, they're doing a lot in terms of being proactive with the testing. They're doing a lot in terms of being proactive with the vaccines. They just announced that they're putting forth outlining a process for seniors to get vaccinated once that becomes available under the state plan. So there's some good and some bad. You know, there's the perception is good and bad. Business wise, you know, there are a lot of people are facing some difficult times right now, and you know, I think most of that extends beyond the Hoboken administration. It's a bigger picture, but the response to that will very much be in play when it comes to who ends up taking or keeping the seat in City Hall in November.
Chris, you know, we're into almost mid-January now, and you know, COVID-19 is still in full force, worse than ever, some say, but we do have the vaccines. How are the businesses doing in Hoboken these days? You know, hopefully we're coming back to warmer days. I mean, it seems hard to imagine that, but back to outdoor dining. Are they going to be able to thrive again?
I'd like them to, but there's a lot of white knuckling going on right now. There are a lot of people who don't know what the next step is, and you know, are cautious about how things are going to happen once the vaccine comes in. Because you know, people are going to be able to go out, but will they still go out? What impact will that have for businesses long term? So there's an awful lot up in the air right now, and there needs to be a proactive, you know, total response to it, or we're going to be facing some pretty dire times as far as the local economy is concerned.
Chris, I appreciate all the reporting you've done for us since April 1st of 2020. You've been a godsend to tap into. I know I wouldn't have been able to launch this website without your support and, of course, Al's support. We're out of time for today. It's amazing how quickly this show flies by. I hope you'll come back on again. I know you will, and keep up the good reporting. And to our readers and to our viewers, thank you so much for being a part of the Tap Into family. We're glad you're back here for 2021, and we look forward to continuing to report for you. Thank you.